Too far.
What's up, man? Yeah, I was just outside doing God's work out there,
Yeah.
writing away, and
I do feel bad for roping you into doing another show because you have
dude,
such a
man.
busy day with news and everything breaking.
Dude, it's literally fine. I'm ready for the weekend to get here, and yeah, man. Hopefully Bill is feeling better, and
Yeah.
hopefully we get back in here soon.
We are certainly hoping for that. Again, Bill's dealing with some stuff, so if you know him, text him or tweet him and tell him you're thinking about him, praying for him, and all that kind of stuff. Is we got to get him back in here when football, man. It's going to be a fun season. We got so much to talk about.
Yeah, no, we miss him in here. I wish he was here right now with us and all that, but happy to fill in and talking for a few more hours here about a lot going on.
Yeah, a lot going on for sure. And the thing that's been developing all morning long is, of course, the new deal that South Carolina has signed with Nike. Again, the Board of Trustees meeting happening at 9 o'clock this morning. We talked about the details of the contract a little bit earlier. 10 years, $70 million through 2026 or 2036, excuse me. In June there, you're going to have an option for an alternate jersey for football, an alternate uniform with women's basketball as well, if I remember correctly. Or was that was the Asia Wilson stuff?
So the alternate uniform, for at least from what the contract says explicitly, again, it's a lot of details in there.
Yes.
It's for football. So
okay, all right.
What does that mean exactly? Does that mean South Carolina would just use their current throwback as their alternate? I don't know exactly if that would be what it is, or maybe Nike just decides to go into a completely different direction,
Sure.
as well as South Carolina with a new jersey. But yeah, you mentioned Asia Wilson stuff, and I think that is just primarily for women's basketball. So it means like there's going to be like Asia Wilson like branded like shoes for South Carolina, women's basketball, some apparel. They'll apparently be featured in like any advertisement or anything that will feature South Carolina.
I almost wonder because you have like Jordan brand schools like Michigan, Oklahoma, Florida, North Carolina that they quite literally have the Jumpman logo. I do wonder if all the women's basketball stuff would be Asia's logo, kind of in that same kind of way.
I think so, and that's a good question. I do wonder for the jerseys themselves. And you mentioned the idea of, is there going to be like maybe like an Asia Wilson alternate jersey or something?
That'd be cool.
I don't know, or an Asia Wilson inspired jersey, I think is the better way to put it.
Sure.
I don't know if that would be the case. Again, it doesn't seem so. It says the apparel. So there is going to be revamps to the women's basketball uniforms. I just don't know if that would mean like what that it all entails. Honestly,
yeah. Again, this is literally brand new news today, so there's a lot of details we're going to find out.
We're taking it like you guys as we go.
It's exciting, though. At the end of the day, it's a very exciting thing. It's new. It is something that fans have clamored for so long.
Yes.
I've been covering this team for 3 years, and when I got here, people were saying, man, can't wait for that Under Armour deal to be over. We need to go to Nike, and, it's one thing to say, it's another thing for it to happen, but here we are.
I don't want to say it feels like a pipe dream, but like it or a fever dream. It just feels like something that we talked about forever, man.
Sure.
And it's like, not that Under Armour. I mean, people are gonna have different opinions on Under Armour. I don't think the Under Armour stuff is bad. It's just like you see stuff that Nike produces. I mean, what's the company you think of most with athletics?
Nike, of course.
Like what shoes do you wear when you go back to school shopping?
Nike.
What clothes do you wear? Nike.
Yeah, you got a Nike Bills pullover on right now.
Exactly. Like you don't typically see people wearing Under Armour, and so for athletics and stuff, it can make a big difference.
And Jay and I were talking about this yesterday. When Carolina signed their deal with Under Armour, now almost 20 years ago, initially, Under Armour was doing some very innovative things in the athletic market with the breathable fabrics and those kind of things that Nike and other companies hadn't quite got onto yet. But here's the thing. Everybody's caught up. Everybody's doing the same thing. And I think you'd even make the argument that, Nike is doing a better job of making Under Armour type things that Under Armour used to have kind of the market share on. So there's not a uniqueness quite anymore to the Under Armour stuff. And again, they've been peeling back on schools they're associated with. Auburn obviously made the jump from Under Armour to Nike for this upcoming season, next year. I think it's next year that they'll be. Or
what?
Auburn to
no,
it's this year. That's right. It is this year.
Auburn already had their mass exodus, and
that's right because they had their fire sale with all the stuff not long ago. That was funny. But yeah, they were. The only other school recently to have an Under Armour deal. Now South Carolina was the only one, and LA be leaving as well. So there's no Under Armour presence anywhere in the SEC anymore.
No, it's It's kind of crazy to think about, to be honest, that there's no more Under Armour with the SEC. And I do wonder what that means for Under Armour's future, because they're not going anywhere. Like
No, they're not.
they're gonna still
It-
have, like, schools like Maryland, and
Yeah,
you'll have, like, I think, like, UCLA's Jordan Brand, right?
UCLA, I believe, is Jordan Brand
They
now.
were Under Armour.
I think off the top of my head, I can tell you all the Under Armour schools.
Let's
You
go.
have Notre Dame, you have Maryland, you have Utah, you have Texas Tech,
Yeah.
and is that it?
Is Texas Tech on? I thought they.
Or did Texas Tech go to Adidas?
I think Texas Tech's Adidas now.
Hold on, I had a list of this that I had up the other day.
Again, it's. But the point is, like, Under Armour is, I don't want to say fizzling out, but it's like that, like, losing another SEC school is. And here's the important thing to know about what is going on with the whole Under Armour situation. Jeremiah Denali, South Carolina's AD, did speak with the media after the Board of Trustees meeting this morning. He did say that Under Armour did not match Nike's offer. So this was something where Under Armour probably had the opportunity to match the offer and re-up with South Carolina, but that was not the case.
By the way, so it is Maryland, Northwestern, and Wisconsin in the Big Ten, Utah in the Big 12, and then Notre Dame. The only other one is I don't believe, no ACC schools have Under Armour. So yeah, they've scaled back even more with Carolina now leaving them. But that is, and we knew that about the Under Armour deal, that they were going to have the first option, like, hey, you're our current provider, we're going to give you the opportunity, and whatever they gave South Carolina offer wise was not as good as what Nike did. So Carolina's like, hey, we're going to go this way instead, which kind of seems like the case for a lot of schools when it comes to their Under Armour deal, outside of Notre Dame, because Notre Dame got a really, really good deal with them because they are a bigger brand, and Under Armour's obviously building a lot of their promotion around that. But you knew South Carolina wasn't going to get that kind of same deal that Notre Dame got.
Yeah, it really does seem like South Carolina is getting a pretty good deal here. And the 2016 deal, which South Carolina did sign with Under Armour, which does run through 2026, it was for about $71.5 million, just around there. This new deal with Nike, all be told, is about 77 or so. So and there's other things in there, like the Asia Wilson stuff, the alternate uniform. Like there's also a ton of incentives and bonuses for the teams, like football, baseball, softball, men's and women's basketball. Those teams win championships and whatnot. That's going to further increase what the school is going to be making.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, we'll talk about that more as the hour goes along. Also, let us know on the Firehouse Subs text line 803-404-6100 what your wish list is for Nike. What do you want to see them do as the new apparel provider for South Carolina coming up starting in 2026? I mentioned this with Chris at the end of the last hour. Unfortunately, the dream season for Irmo has come to an end. A hard-fought game last night. Again, you take the lead and then you give up the 3-1 homer there in the top of the sixth inning, and just weren't able to get anything going there in the bottom of the sixth. And it is so interesting watching again these 11 and 12-year-old kids who play baseball better than any of us could, and are so efficient out there on the field. When that loss hits, the emotions come pouring out, the tears and all that kind of stuff, and that's kind of a reminder, like, man, these are kids, but man, what a run they went on.
It's heartbreaking to see it end, right? And this team deserves to be playing for a United States championship appearance potentially, but that's not going to be the case. And it's something where you think about the ride they've been on. Obviously, they had a really they've been, think about it. These kids have been playing baseball together for months now, together on the same team, probably since June.
Yeah, well, like All-Stars would be like late May, early June, right?
So like they've been at it for months now. They're probably hanging out all the time together. I got to imagine for these kids, it's probably the coolest summer they will ever have.
Oh, totally.
It's something that all of us dream of, right? Like playing like at the Sandlot or whatever. But these kids got to go to Williamsport, and to get there, they obviously needed a really big comeback to beat Florida in the regional championship, and they were able to do so. And now it's it's tough to see them lose, but the games they had here, obviously the 13-0 win, the really insane comeback the other night.
Yeah,
it just sucks they fell short yesterday.
Well, think about it. You made it into the final 8 teams in the entire world, the final 4 teams.
It's really quite an accomplishment
in the United States of America. Like, that is unbelievable. And I think they made the most headlines with their comebacks, with the wild games they played. Again, that game against South Dakota the other day was one of the most fun, just pure baseball games I think you'll ever watch, regardless of what age group we're talking about. It was just a fun, thrilling
I
game.
was about to say, I've heard so many people just online discourse and whatnot just talk about the fact that that is like one of the best games they've ever seen, and that's a little league game we're talking about. Like
Yep.
that's crazy, and the way these kids have like developed now, where they're throwing harder and stuff, they're also just so fundamentally sound. Like the double play that Irmo had to stay alive a few days ago and then go on to win that game was really impressive, and it's just like again the way they are able to work the count, take pitches, and then come up with the timely hits. It's just an all-around really solid baseball team to watch.
I've watched some of those efficient plays they made in the field, and I couldn't help but think, like, man, how many times did my little league team mess up that exact same situation growing up and stuff like that? But those kids are special, man, and it's been a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, no, most definitely, and hopefully they come back for a hero's welcome.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Hopefully South Carolina can. I know South Carolina's been tweeting about them nonstop, but hopefully they can do some justice to honor them a little bit. That'd be really cool.
Think about, because what, there'd be 6th, 7th graders, I guess.
Yeah.
Think
going back to school. School's probably started for them.
School started for them, but like, here's the thing: all their classmates have been watching.
Yeah.
Teachers have been. Everybody in the school knows what you do. You've been playing on national television.
They're heroes
in front of the entire world. You want to talk about walking around the middle school hallways with your head held high? Like, you could be feeling good. Like your crush is going to be talking to you. All those kind of things.
That is, yeah, that's the card you can play.
It's like, hey, I was on TV.
That's a pretty good poll right there.
Absolutely. So a shout out to those guys. I will, I don't know, we'll try an effort, maybe get somebody, the coaches or some of the players on at some point to kind of talk about that journey, because that was special. Obviously, Chris knows a lot of them, pretty well from being out there in that area. But fun to watch, and shout out to those guys as they've again kind of captured the hearts of the entire country with their run up there in Williamsport. Well, the headlines did not stop yesterday, as in the afternoon we learned the SEC is indeed going to a 9-game conference schedule. What does Shane Beamer think about that? We'll discuss that coming up next as the halftime show rolls along. Tyler had Jack Beltry live at the Game Summer Golf Classic, sponsored by Krager Showrooms, formerly the Nest and the Vista, here on the Game. All right, welcome back in. It is the halftime show. Tyler Head and Jack Veltri along with you here on your Friday on the game. Again, out at Charwood Golf Club for the Game Summer Golf Classic, sponsored by Craigor Showrooms, formerly known as the Nest over in the Vista. We'll have some course check-ins with Terry Ford coming up a little bit later on in the hour, but right now we are talking all things SEC 9-game schedule. If you've been living under a rock in the past 24 hours, this happened fast because yesterday afternoon, after we went off the air, we got the first report from the Dellingers and folks like that usually have these things first, like, hey, the SEC looks like this is going to happen, which that tells me, like, okay, within the next maybe a week or so, we'll get an announcement. Well, like an hour later, it's like, oh, the SEC put out a statement. Sankey's on Feinbaum talking about it. No, this is really happening. 9-game schedule in 2026.
I'm telling you, man, things just life in the SEC is just different. You got a new apparel deal coming out. You got SEC moving to 9 games. I mean, there are no slow days around here for us, which is nice because it gives us more to talk about. But
sure,
yeah, man, this is something that it feels like it's been in the works for a while now, and now it's finally here, and I'm glad to see it.
I go back to my first full year here, which was 2023. The spring meetings that year in like May or whenever that was, it was being discussed then as like, because we knew in 2024, Texas and Oklahoma were coming to the conference, and we're like, okay, it would make sense to expand to 9 games because you got more teams. You're not going to have divisions anymore and all that kind of stuff. Why not? Didn't happen. Obviously, there was reasons for that. But now, off the heels of the College Football Playoff Committee earlier on this week, and we talked about it yesterday, saying that they are going to take your record strength into account more by saying, hey, if you played more tough teams, we're not going to ding you for those losses quite as much as if you played a bunch of, cupcakes and beat all those teams. So there is more incentive to play tougher games now. And the SEC was afraid, like, hey, if we don't get that guarantee, we don't want to add another 9 losses to all of our schools to potentially hurt us from getting more teams in the playoff. That doesn't seem like that's going to be the case now. They give them the green light and we're off and rolling. That's all they were waiting for, is that confirmation that, hey, playing more conference games is not going to hurt us, right? Right?
Which is good.
Which is good.
Yeah. I mean, but I wonder now, we talked a little bit about this earlier, but what if we have a situation like last year where, say, South Carolina is a 9-win team, 9-3, but take out one of their wins over, Wofford, and they instead beat a school like Florida or Tennessee.
Sure.
What does that necessarily entail for how they finish? Do they get more of a chance to be in the playoff picture? Like, would that have catapulted them?
Maybe, and if it was over a team like Tennessee that they too were in the playoff, I think that would help out a lot.
Yeah.
And I think you could have a legitimate case of like, hey, we think a 9-3 South Carolina might be better than an 11-2 SMU, and they could put them in because of that. And again, it all determines on what other team's doing. So there's a lot of scenarios that have to play out for that. But I do believe now we can look at, because I think we've said with a lot of comfortability, hey, if you go 10-2 in the SEC, you're getting in. There's no question about that. Now I can feel maybe not quite as comfortable, but feel pretty good saying if you go 9-3, depending on, as long as you aren't losing 3 games to nobodies, you're going to have a good shot.
And I think, honestly, I do think with the whole expansion talk and stuff, I do feel like we're going to get to a point with this kind of the way we look at how teams are with, their wins and losses and stuff. I think we are going to get to a point where expansion is going to have to happen again.
Sure.
I don't know what it would expand to. Obviously, we talked about it last week. The Big Ten proposed the idea of 24, 28 teams. Don't think it necessarily needs to get that far, but maybe get to 16. I think that's something where you would be able to not necessarily, if you have a lot of 10-2 teams, you're not taking them out. But a 9-3 team, you might have to leave them out because maybe there are so many 10-3 teams.
So what does Coach Beamer think about the 9-game schedule, and how did SEC coaches find out about this yesterday? Dave, if we could hit cut number 1. Here's him at Carolina Calls last night talking about how this went down from his perspective.
No one asked our opinion really as coaches. We had a 1-hour Zoom yesterday, taught all the SEC head coaches that we were on for an hour with Commissioner Sankey, and amazing that never came up in the 1 hour that we're getting ready to go to a 9
I'm so
game.
surprised.
Nor did they say, what do y'all think about this? As a competitor, I love it. I think it's great for the fans because the fans want to see quality opponents week in, week out. And I'll say what I've said all along. I'm great with it as long as every other school in the SEC is playing the schedule that we're playing, because we play Clemson, Kentucky plays Louisville, Florida plays Florida State, and Georgia plays Georgia Tech. The other, 12? The other 12 teams in our league don't play a out-of-conference regular rival. So that's awesome that every school is going to be required to play one out-of-conference Power 4 team. Great. Well, we already do that. And we also play Miami, North Carolina, NC State, and on over the next few years. And I'm not shying away from competition. That's awesome. I'm all for it, as long as the other teams that we're competing against for playoff spots and all that as well, they're playing the same 11 Power 4 games a year, which is the direction that we're going. And if they are, awesome. And if they're not, then that's not very, let's be honest, fair in a lot of ways as well. You don't see, I've used this description before, you don't see the NFL has a 17-game regular season. The Kansas City Chiefs don't play 17 games against the NFL and then be okay if the Broncos play 16 NFL games and then they go play one extra game against a college team, in other words, for a playoff berth. So as long as it's all fair, I'm great with it. And if it's not, then I think everybody needs to look at what are we doing. But at the end of the day, I'm excited. I think it's great as a competitor. I want to coach in those games. The fans want to come to those games, but I just also have an obligation to make sure that our team is in the same boat as the other 15 teams in this league.
Do you think that was a direct shot at Mark Stoops in Kentucky?
I would say it's more of a direct shot at a lot of SEC teams, but yes, I would say to some extent.
Because Kentucky has the built-in game with Louisville, as he mentioned there, as does Georgia with Georgia Tech and Florida State. But you see Georgia going out there scheduling the Clemsons and the Oregons and teams like that. Yeah. They got Ohio State coming up in a couple years. You have the deal with Florida playing Miami in a home and all those kind of things. Kentucky's not done those kind of things.
No,
Kentucky,
they schedule light.
Let me run you through right quick. Through 2030, outside of Louisville, and their non-conference opponents will be Toledo, Eastern Michigan, Tennessee Tech, Youngstown State, Kent State, South Alabama, Toledo, Murray State, Ball State, Toledo, Kent State, Eastern Illinois, Georgia Southern. Those sound like any Power 4 opponents to you?
No, but I'm also going to say Kentucky's going to have to drop one of those opponents.
They're going to have to drop.
So they're going to have to drop the cupcake game for starting next year.
And look, and it's not just Kentucky. Vanderbilt, probably in the same way, though. They've gone out and scheduled Virginia Tech these past 2 seasons. Those are schools that have to fight for bowl eligibility more often than not. And if they can give themselves 3 cupcakes to get themselves halfway there, they're going to do it. Now you take at least one of those away, add in another conference game.
Makes it tough.
Now Kentucky and Vanderbilt are going to have more of an uphill climb to get there. So they're the ones pushing back on this. Again, Beamer said, we've already scheduled things out. We're not afraid of that. We just want to make sure everybody else is doing the exact same thing.
Yeah, you want it to be fair, right? Now, again, I think it really, for these other schools, South Carolina, the Floridas, the schools like that, they're going to have to play 11. South Carolina already has the built-in games.
It's guaranteed for 10.
10.
Right? Everybody's going to have 10 guaranteed. Yeah. And for Carolina, Georgia,
they'll play 11.
Florida, they already have one. And you don't have to, but you're encouraged to still seek out another one, basically.
I don't think you're going to get every team on board with that. And again, there's no written rule necessarily that says, you have to have 11 Power 4 opponents, because that would be kind of crazy. And I do wonder, because South Carolina does have all these home and homes with UNC, Miami, NC State through 2031. Then after that, it's just really Clemson. You still have to schedule all these different games. But I do wonder, in 6 years' time, does South Carolina look at, okay, maybe we don't need to schedule 11 Power 4s every single year. Maybe we do the 10 games with the 9 SEC, the 1 Clemson, and the 2 mid-major or whatever schools.
Yeah, we'll see. But they have contracts, as you mentioned, with North Carolina, NC State, Miami, all locked in.
And Beamer did say yesterday there haven't been any discussions about any of that stuff yet, as far as maybe removing some of those games. Again, contracts, you just can't. It's not like you can magically wipe it away.
Yeah, it's not that easy, especially for Miami coming up next year and stuff. That is something that is not as easy to quite wiggle out of.
And it only strengthens their resume, worst case. So
it does. So we'll see what plays out from that. We'll dive into more dynamics of the SEC going to 9 games, as well as check in with Terry Ford out on the course at the Game Summer Golf Classic, sponsored by Krager Showrooms, formerly known as the Nest and the Vista, here on your Friday on the Game. Halftime show, Tyler Head, Jack Beltry along with you here at the Game Summer Golf Classic. Sponsored by Craig Showrooms, formerly known as The Nest, out in the Vista. The golf is ongoing right now, and Terry Ford is actually out there on the course, and he's been checking in with some of our golfers and actually been firing off the golf gun. I'm quite literally looking at a video of him shooting the thing right now, and all the proceeds of the golf gun do go to Camp Discovery, and Terry's actually going to check in real quick with Mary Beth from Camp Discovery, talking about the golf gun and the way it benefits their camp out there. We'll check in more with Terry out there on the course as the day goes along. By the way, if we see anybody walking into the clubhouse injured in any way, perhaps a knot on the head or limping, we'll know that Terry hit him with the golf gun.
Can I just say that golf gun looks, because I had no idea.
I think it's got some power.
I had no idea what it looked like yesterday. It looks like something you see like straight out of like Star Wars.
Yeah.
Like it looks crazy. So it just shoots a golf ball.
Yeah, just shoots golf ball. See, if I could just play with that, I'd be a much better golfer.
Yeah, I know, Terry. Why don't you share it with us?
He's out there having fun. We'll check in with more of those people out there on the course coming up as the show does roll along. But of course, news of the day, multiple news of the day. One, South Carolina's contract with Nike, which we'll get back more into at the top of the next hour, talking about uniforms. But the SEC going to the 9-game schedule coming up next year. And this kind of forces the hand of the Big Ten, right? Because there's been this hang up that we've spent so much time talking about this offseason about the future of the playoff format. Because again, we don't have any guarantees past this year. We have no clue what 2026 is going to be like. If they can't come to a decision, it would just default back to the 12-team playoff. But we think 16 is on the horizon. We don't know what that 16 is going to look like. You had the SEC, the ACC, and the Big 12 all wanting to go in this 5-11 model. Notre Dame, I believe, is in on that as well. But the Big Ten is wanted to go with the 4+4 +2+2+1 model that would allow the automatic qualifiers from each conference. And the SEC and the Big Ten have been butting heads on that for a while. And again, they have the decision-making power. So if mom and dad can't agree on something, what are we going to do? Is essentially the case here. But the Big Ten did say if the SEC went to 9 games, they'd be more open to accepting the 5-11 model because there'd be more balance, basically, across the conferences with scheduling. Well, now that's happened. So I'm assuming only a matter of time for the Big Ten says, okay, let's sign on the dotted line and make this 5-11 16-team model happen.
And I can already imagine that those steps are probably already being taken. Again, with how quickly, and I say quickly, like the exact timeline is not necessarily known, but with how quickly things went with, oh yeah, the SEC, it's rumored that they're going to be doing 9 games, and how quickly that came out to become official, wouldn't shock me here over the next maybe few months or something that we get to 5+11. Because again, there's nothing set in stone for next year, right? Like they could potentially move to the 5-11 model next year. I just think it makes a lot more sense to do the 5+11, just add the extra teams to make it that way. And, make sure you get the best teams in. That's what it really comes down to, I think.
I do wonder, will the SEC push for a similar type of scheduling requirement from the Big Ten? Because, again, as we mentioned, and Beamer alluded to a moment ago, you still have the requirement to play at least one Power 4 out-of-conference opponent. Now, in the Big Ten, there are no out-of-conference crossover rivalries. Everybody's rival, their main rival that you play on rivalry weekend, is all contained within the Big Ten.
Yeah.
So you'd be forcing all of those schools, all 18 Big Ten schools, to go outside of the conference and make sure they schedule at least one opponent every single year, which I feel like is the fair ask, and obviously would help out with scheduling between the SEC and the Big Ten to have more of those games, which that's better for us as fans. Because again, I don't want to watch Ohio State play Eastern Kentucky.
No.
Like, I know what's going to happen there. I'd rather see Ohio State take on Georgia or Tennessee or Auburn or Texas or whoever. That's just a better game, better matchup, and creates better football.
You should be able to have one cupcake game on your schedule, play it wherever you want, put it right before rivalry week if you want, like some teams do, or put it early in the season. But you should be having to play tougher games. And I think with the Big Ten and the SEC, we see it in basketball all the time. We could potentially maybe see something where we see the crossover of a Big Ten SEC weekend where all these teams are matched up against each other.
Yeah.
Depending on like Texas playing like Ohio State or Oregon or something.
Sure.
It would be something really interesting.
If you could have that kind of scheduling agreement, and again, everybody's still going to play, the G5 school or whatever. But if you told me that half of the teams in the Big Ten and half of the teams in the SEC were playing each other in week number 1, and then the other half are doing it in week number 2, you create a much better start to the season. Because again, we have a couple games that we're excited about coming up next weekend, but there's a lot of like, all right, so-and-so versus an FCS team, so-and-so versus G5. If you could make the schedule more loaded, you make a better product those first couple weeks of the season, because really it takes until conference play starts for everyone for really every game to feel like something.
College football sells itself. Like, people are going to watch it regardless of what teams you have out there. Like Georgia is playing Marshall next week. They're going to be millions of people probably watching that game on ESPN.
Yeah, but it'll be over by halftime.
Exactly. I mean, like, you're going to have. I think the big thing for college football moving forward is not so much about getting the viewership and getting people interested. It's keeping them interested throughout the entire game during these early season matchups. And I think just having the better games and stuff, we see it in viewership all the time. The numbers are there, and I think it's something that is really intriguing to the eye of let's get more of these big marquee matchups. And, now we know with the College Football Playoff Committee, like, they're going to value what you do against the top opponents.
I feel like if everybody was under like the ESPN umbrella, or if we had a collective bargaining agreement where all the television contracts were included together, there'd be more of a push for this, right? Because then everybody's benefiting from having more games on TV, more big high-profile matchups can be watched by more people, where you can sell more ads and those kind of things. Because right now, your two biggest conferences are on two different networks, and Big Ten split between, Fox, CBS, and NBC, and everything on the SEC is on ESPN, but you don't quite have that same agreement there where you could say, hey, let's get more, Georgia's versus Ohio State's and Texas's versus Michigan's, because that benefits all of us with this TV contract. You're not on the same one, so unfortunately it doesn't quite work out that way.
That's the thing. And you got so many different egos here and stuff, so it's going to be really tough, I think, to split it up and kind of just figure out, okay, what works best for everyone. But I really do hope at some point everyone is able to come to some sort of agreement, just because it would be in the best interest of the fans if we were to come to something like that.
Absolutely. We'll talk more about this as the show rolls along, but we'll come back, wrap up the hour, and get another check-in from the golf course from Terry Ford as the halftime show. Tyler Head and Jack Felcher rolls along here on your Friday on the Game. Welcome back in. It is the halftime show. Tyler Head and Jack Feltree along with you here at the Game Summer Golf Classic, sponsored by Craig Showrooms, formerly known as the Nest, out in the Vista. As things are rolling on there, we'll get back into the discussion of the 9-game SEC schedule in just a moment, but we have yet another check-in with Terry Ford out there on the golf course talking to the people taking part in today's tournament. So we got Terry Ford. Well, there you go. Another check-in with Terry Ford out there on the golf course. We'll have those as the afternoon rolls along there, but we're talking about the 9-game schedule in the SEC. And the biggest question that now gets asked here locally is, okay, well, who are South Carolina's guaranteed opponents going to be every single year? And again, this is a debate that's been going on for a couple years, and there was a list released. It was early 2023 that seemed like the idea, for somebody on the inside that, hey, when this happens, this is going to be the locked-in opponents. But that's changed a lot since then. And I think, especially for a team like South Carolina that does not have natural rivals necessarily in the conference, you obviously have Clemson, but there isn't any other games in this conference that you look at and say, yeah, that's like a real old school, long-standing rivalry outside of the fake ones against A&M and Missouri. So Carolina could end up with just about anybody, it seems like.
I think the schools that we need to examine is South Carolina having options. Again, nothing, official out there is what they could do. But I think you look at teams like the Kentuckys of the world, Missouri. I think you look at those teams first off is probably the ones that, again, neither of those teams really have ties to anyone else either. So I feel like South Carolina has always been playing them since they were all in the SEC East together. They all played each other last year, playing each other again this year. It makes sense for those three to all play each other commonly every single year moving forward. And I think if we're talking about from a balance standpoint, I think all three of those teams are – Kentucky's obviously slightly worse this going into the season than last year too, but I think they can all – it's not like you have one really dominant team in there and then the other teams are just not on the same level. I think all three are fairly balanced. And then I think for what South Carolina could do with like a third game,
yeah,
I think you look at a team like Georgia potentially, who would probably have an open slot depending on what happens with, obviously the Florida.
Yeah,
they'll have teams like that, but they're Tennessee. So
I'm glad you brought up the idea of balance because everybody's clamoring for the Georgia series, which would be great, and obviously proximity, it's the closest team to you, so that'd be awesome. Now you don't want to have like Georgia, Alabama, and Texas as your three locked-in opponents because that would be very difficult. So it does need to be a balance, and I don't know if that's the way the conference is going to look at it, where one team isn't just playing a murderer's row and another team gets Vanderbilt, Kentucky, and Mississippi State or something like that.
Yeah, no, you definitely want to make sure. I think the way I think we need to look at it, almost maybe like a tier system. Like you get one really good team, and again, I think the term of good, and then like a mediocre team, and then a bad team. I think it's all kind of subjective.
Sure.
Because 10 years from now, you're still playing the same teams. Georgia could be awful from now. Not that I don't think that's ever going to happen.
Right.
But Georgia could be awful from now. Kentucky could be really good. You just never know what you're going to get. So you do want to try to find some balance with the schedule and not hand like Mississippi State. Imagine Mississippi State gets all the really hard teams, and South Carolina gets none of them.
If I remember correctly, when they made the 2024 schedule, which is the same as 2025, just flipped home and away, I think I remember there being a metric that they went back and basically looked at every team's 10-year success over the past decade to kind of determine your point value and going from there, determining who should play who. And I wouldn't be opposed to something like that. Now, again, you're going to have some schools where, Georgia is going to be locked into Florida and Auburn because those are longstanding rivalries. Alabama is going to be locked into Auburn and Tennessee. So
Maybe LSU too.
yeah, maybe LSU as well. They wouldn't have as much flexibility to make it fair, I feel like. So I don't know if you can truly make it a fair thing across the board while also preserving those rivalries that are so important. And the SEC did a good job with this, past 2 year schedules of allowing those to continue, knowing that this 9-game thing was coming. Because if not, then you would have had a situation where a lot of those rivalries would have ended because you couldn't have had all the same opponents in 26 and 27.
The other good thing, though, with the whole, we talk about the 3 common opponents you'd play every year. You get the 6 games that are elsewhere out there that you'd play.
Yes.
And you would play every single SEC opponent. Is it home and away or just in general over the next 4 years?
Yes. You will see everybody home and away over the course of the next 4 years. Now, we don't know if it's going to be like a situation where in 2026 you play these 6 teams, in 2027 you play the same 6 teams, you just flip home and away, or if it alternates.
Kind of like what we see this year and last year where it's the same SEC schedule, it's just flipped in terms of home and away and the dates and stuff. But it's good to see that at the very least, like for a team like South Carolina, like there's going to be a trip to Austin at some point. They're going back to LSU. Like there's going to be opportunity for South Carolina to play every single team.
Well, it was an example that when the SEC expanded to 14 back in 2012 and you didn't go to 9 games then, there were those weird quirks like, Georgia never going to A&M, despite the fact they've been in the conference for almost 15 years now. Those kind of things aren't going to happen anymore. If you are a student at South Carolina starting in the fall of 2026, you have the opportunity to see every single opponent in the SEC, either in Williams-Brice Stadium or in their own venue, actually both. It'd be at home and away over the course of 4 years if you stay at the school during that entire time.
Like it's going to be really interesting to see that. I like that because I've never been a fan of, like you mentioned earlier, Georgia's never been to Texas A&M. How is that happening?
I don't know.
In 13 years of A&M being in the conference, it makes no sense to me.
Yeah, so we'll dive more into this as the show goes along. Going to get back into the Nike deal and the future of uniforms because it may not be exactly what it appears to be from earlier on this morning. Dive into that coming up next. It is the halftime show. Tyler Head, Jack Beltry, live at the Game 7 Golf Classic, sponsored by Krager Showrooms, formerly known as the Nest and the Vista, on your Friday on the game. Tyler Head for the mortgage guru, Jacob Crowder with First Palmetto Bank. If you're looking for a mortgage guru, Jacob Crowder has you covered. He has helped so many 107.5 The Game listeners and can help you too. We at The Game personally recommend him. He is owned and operated right here in the Midlands. Jacob has local decision makers, which means quick and precise processing and underwriting. If you are looking to make a move, give Jacob a call at 803-719-1005 or email him at jcrowder@firstpalmetto.com. Interest rates have stabilized as well as the local housing market, and now is as good a time to buy a house as any. Jacob and First Palmetto Bank have the products to help home buyers, and if you're considering building a home, they have no-nonsense construction loans that fits your needs. Jacob's MLS number is 198-432. First Palmetto Bank is a member of FDIC as well as an equal housing lender. Welcome back in. It is the halftime show. Tyler Head and Jack Belcher hanging out with you here at the Game Summer Golf Classic here at Chartwood Golf Club, West Columbia, sponsored by Krager Showrooms, formerly known as the Nest in the Vista. A lot of things we've talked about today so far. Obviously, the SEC 9-game schedule, one of the bigger headlines, but we've also been talking about South Carolina's new deal with Nike. Of course, we talked about the contract details there in the last hour, but some other little nuggets coming out here that we haven't had a chance to get to provide clarification on what exactly is going to be part of this deal, as well as what the team's going to look like. And we discussed earlier at the Board of Trustees meeting earlier, where there was a picture taken with the new uniforms, or what we thought were the new uniforms for South Carolina, which quite literally look like the exact same ones they've been wearing, just with the Nike swoosh instead of the Under Armour logo. And maybe there's some variance on number size and those kind of things, but for the most part, they look the exact same. But our guy Jordan Kay did note on Twitter a little while ago that these are just prototypes. These are not guaranteed. They could be. These are not guaranteed to be the exact same jerseys that Carolina's wearing. I'm assuming Nike just threw some together real quick for the purposes of this presentation, but we may actually get something very different next year.
Yeah, I mean, that seems to be the way in which things are heading, and I think that's very exciting. Again, how different will these jerseys look in a year's time? I don't know. But again, I think we could definitely expect, like you said before, the block numbers look a little bit different. I think the Carolina and the Gamecocks, the logo on the chest area looks a little bit squished. So I'm assuming maybe that's something that goes a little bit bigger. Maybe it's like the 2000s when South Carolina was sponsored by Russell brand, and you had the Carolina logo be pretty big on the chest. I think that's something that could be good. Maybe they go script. I mean, who knows? There are a ton of options here, and I'll be really interested to see which direction Nike and South Carolina go.
We've asked a couple different times today on the Firehouse Subs text line 803-446-100. What is things on your wish list you'd want to see Nike do with South Carolina uniforms? And Nameless Texter did say, I would like cursive style font uniforms, be a unique look, and I think would be nice with our helmets. And I think that'd be cool. Again, you have the traditional Gamecocks or Carolina in the block lettering across the chest. And if you could have that script type of thing, I think that'd be pretty neat.
I saw a concept of it somewhere on Twitter. And again, it was just a little render that somebody made, but the script looks okay. I don't think it looks anything great. I always liked it on the helmets back in the Muschamp days.
Yes, that looked cool.
Like, that looks cool. I think Elijah was in here wearing the script hat.
He was, yep.
So, and again, I think that's something that South Carolina has not done in years. Again, not in the Beamer era that I know of, but I think that's something that could be pretty cool if they brought something like that back.
Yeah, and with Under Armour coming in, it's an idea to kind of not quite start from scratch, but really bring new people to the idea table of, hey, what's possible? What can we do? And I will say, Carolina under Beamer with Under Armour has done a lot of interesting things. We had the throwbacks last year. They did the thing with the white face mask, which I thought were cool. You obviously got the different color combinations of black, white, and garnet. They've mixed and matched pretty well. So it's not like they've been afraid to make changes, but I will be interested to see if Nike does something radically different. And we talked about this earlier. Nike a decade ago was very much about trying to establish individual team identities. And I'm going to unlock a factor of my Georgia fanhood that always bothered me when they switched the number fonts on those uniforms to what they called Bulldog Bold, where you had like these bubbly, sharp type of numbers that looked terrible. And I thought it ruined the uniforms for about a decade. Once they switched athletic directors, they did go back to the block lettering or block numbers a couple years ago. But that is kind of the idea that Nike's had for a lot of schools is, hey, we want to give you your own identity, your own uniqueness when it comes to these uniforms. I don't know if they're doing as much of that as of right now, but we'll see what they decide to do with Carolina.
I think what we do need to see with the Nike the Nike uniforms is obviously you got the swoosh. I think you in that picture that Jordan posted on Twitter, and I think some other media people posted it too, is the crest area is a lot more like it's pretty plain, and normally I think Georgia does their logo in the middle.
They do.
I think that's something where you put the South Carolina Gamecock logo there, and then you kind of go from there. One interesting thing from this agreement with Nike is going to have a special alternate uniform. It's listed here in the contract. It's as part of an energy program which includes more than 15, quote, elite college football programs during the first half of the term. So South Carolina could be getting a pretty cool uniform here. Now, the other thing with this is there's all these cash alternatives where you don't necessarily – there are all these different things that South Carolina could opt to have with the agreement.
Yes.
But, like, if they didn't want a special uniform for whatever reason, if they just wanted their 3 traditional ones, they could get $10 million as a cash alternative. So that's pretty interesting to think about. Of South Carolina's a real chance to really increase the money they would make on this deal.
I threw out the idea of a cocky alternate uniform, kind of like what women's basketball has, where like the yellow cleats, you could have cocky on the logo and the various position stances based on whatever position you play, like Western Kentucky's done with Big Red.
It'd be pretty cool.
That'd be cool. I don't think that's something fans would enjoy. You'd sell a lot of merch for that kind of stuff. I feel like that'd be pretty neat. But what'd you say the name of this was for this uniform initiative?
It just says special alternate uniform, and it says the Energy Program, which includes more than 15 elite college football programs.
How about like a 2001 inspired, like spacey type of futuristic thing?
Kind of like UCF.
Yeah, UCF does the Space U thing.
Is UCF Nike?
I believe so.
Yeah, they have that blue, that powder blue uniform. I think that could be something pretty cool. I think South Carolina really leans into.
Yes,
how about like a, I don't even know how you would do it, but sand is tan and you have sandstorm.
That's right.
Like a tan, like I don't know if tan. I don't know if that would look good.
Could you possibly incorporate the towel waving into like the helmet logo?
Ooh, so you have like, I don't know if you'd put a hand, but you have the towel waving. Maybe in like the part of the white that sticks out is like
maybe
it says Carolina.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I mean, look, that's the beauty of this, is that we don't know what it's going to look like, other than the fact of like it will look different, I'm sure, next year.
Yes.
I doubt it's going to look like what the first prototype jersey looks like. But
yeah,
I mean, with the alternate and stuff, I would imagine South Carolina takes that deal and includes it in there. I mean, that's going to be something that's going to be really cool. And Nike will have a real chance to make something completely different and make a big splash.
Sure. And look, Nike is in the business of selling products, right? And university apparel deals are their opportunity to sell their products to a fan base. So if you have multiple uniforms, if you have a lot of things that lean into the traditions of 2001, of Sandstorm, of Cocky, that's more opportunity to sell things to your fan base because they're going to buy them. Like the Nike logo. Let's think about this from our perspective, right? We are both under the age of 30. We grew up in the many people listening may not know what I'm talking about, the swag era, right? We're all familiar with that, where the brand that you wore in the 2010s onward meant so much, and Nike was one of those premier brands to the point now. I am almost 30 years old. I don't have to impress anybody. I'm married. I don't have to worry about that kind of stuff anymore. But when I see something made by Nike, I'm more inclined to buy that because that brand value the like, man, that's the cool brand that everybody wore, growing up. I gravitate towards that.
No, totally. Absolutely. And can I just add one other thing with this? Something I did not see earlier. There's a section right above the special alternate uniforms. It says Paris uniform. Nike will outfit the women's basketball program in its advanced Paris uniform chassis for the 2026-27 season. USC will wear the same chassis worn by the USA basketball women's national team during the 2024 Paris Olympics. And notably, there's no cash alternative here. It is a breach of this offer if not provided.
Now, that's not their game uniforms. That is like what they're going to be wearing, like walking in, walking out, doing media appearances, that kind of stuff, I believe, right?
I would imagine so. First of all, let me look what a chassis even is. I had no idea what that word even meant. I'm still confused on what that means. But anyway, I guess.
Yeah.
I would imagine that's like you're talking about like the jumpsuit?
I think like the things they wear for the ceremonies and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah, I would imagine so. I would think that would be the case. There's also a little section called the uniform closet here. Nike will provide USC with a full redesign of its football uniform closet. So yes, full redesign, minimum 3 uniforms during the first 4 years of its term, and women's basketball closet, minimum 4 uniforms during the first 4 years of its term. In each case, using Nike's industry-leading designers, chassis, and innovation.
So I'm either talking about the jumpsuits that we're looking at here, or
I think
this
that's
style of uniform,
like the breathable kind of
yeah,
uniforms.
maybe that's
Maybe that's
what we're talking
okay.
about.
The wording's a little confusing on that.
Which would make sense. That, like you have the direct tie there, and obviously, one of the premier women, if not the premier women's basketball program, to be a part of that. So that's cool. Regardless of whatever that looks like or whatever that is, that's neat that the women's basketball program is going to be on that end of the innovation.
And nothing mentioned there about men's basketball or baseball. Though I did see, again, I think Jordan K tweeted it out that Nike will have the full uniform closet that they have for other SEC men's basketball teams.
Yep.
That will apply to USC. So I do wonder which direction, because we've seen the USC basketball jerseys change a little bit over the years. Again, that's another team that has a lot of wiggle room to kind of do something completely different. And then baseball, no mention, but I would imagine they'll undergo probably some change as well.
I will continue to beat the drum for cocky uniforms. We already have a women's basketball. Do it with baseball and men's basketball too.
They're fine. I think South Carolina has better uniforms, but
well, I'm not saying it's the best uniform, but if you can add it in the mix, have fun with it.
Do you think the baseball uniforms change it? Because again, baseball is that one sport where I feel like you can't change the pinstripes.
No, that stays.
People like the Yankee road grays. I mean, people like the USC baseball uniforms like a lot.
Sure.
I haven't heard many complaints about those uniforms.
I think you would keep those the same and maybe introduce an alternate.
I think you could probably change up the garnet and the black, maybe instead of the script, maybe do something different. Maybe do black letters.
Sure.
I don't know, but a lot of opportunity here.
Yep, it's exciting nonetheless. So with Nike taking over the apparel deal coming up in 2026, we're also excited for high school football officially underway for the beginning of the season. We'll talk with our guy Chris Deering coming up next about what's happening around the Midlands and around the state tonight as the halftime show rolls along. Tyler Head, Jack Beltry live from the 107.5 The Game Summer Golf Classic, sponsored by Craig Showrooms, formerly known as The Nest in the Vista. Welcome back in. It is the halftime show. Tyler Head and Jack Belcher along with you here at the Game Summer Golf Classic, sponsored by Craigers Showrooms, formerly known as the Nest, over in the Vista. We're talking a lot of college football, but high school football is already underway across the state of South Carolina. Joining us to tell us everything that's going on is our guy Chris Deering on the AAA Heating and Air phone lines. Chris, appreciate you taking your time. I know you're excited, and we tried to get some things going last night. Unfortunately, the weather got in the way, and some of those games are going to have to finish up tonight from what it sounds like.
Yeah, absolutely, Tyler. It is an exciting time of the year. I loved it, high school football. Again, we did get a few games in last night. Even some of the ones that were completed that they called ended in the second half. They called them early. The scores were out of hand, so they just called those complete games. Started last night. They have to finish tonight, and then pretty full teams tonight. Week 0 stuff that we like to call it. I mean, this is really week 1. We just have a hang up of calling the final week of the season week 11. I don't quite understand that, but we are week 0 and it's exciting and ready to get out. I went out last night, made a trip down to Barnwell County to see Barnwell and Blacktail Hilda, and pretty good game between two ranked teams. There are penalties and cramping and stuff like that, but Barnwell is they're probably a pretty good football team again. They played in the state championship last year in 2A. And they won that game 22-6 last night, and they got some talent over there for the War Horses.
So let's talk about some games locally here in the Midlands. We'll start off Irmo taking on Oceanside. What have you got?
Yeah, that's gonna be a good one. 2 ranked teams in the preseason. Oceanside's coming off a team that handled them pretty easily last year. Irmo is moving into that post AJ Brand era. He's off to Virginia Tech as a quarterback. This could be an interesting game. I think the quarterback situation at Irmo is still a little bit unsettled, but man, the talent they have on the offensive and defensive line at Irmo might be the best in the state. And that's saying a lot with a lot of these teams that I've seen so far in the preseason and stuff. But, you got a Jaden Bryant that's being recruited by South Carolina at defensive end for Irmo, Nate Carson on the offensive line. Those guys are just really good, really talented. They're all going to play on Saturday somewhere. So that I think that's going to be a tall task for Oceanside. They get a brand new coach, Brent LaPrade, Steve LaPrade's son, longtime coach in the state. He was at Fort Dorchester. He was to carry. Brent LaPrade is his son. He's taking over Oceanside. So, good job for him. Good first head coaching job. So we'll see.
Chris, what's going on, man? It's Jack. Good to hear from you. Talking about Spring Valley, Richland Northeast. Spring Valley over the last years has just, quite frankly, just not been very good. 0-11 last year. Richland Northeast coming off a good season. What are you expecting from this matchup? And most more notably for Spring Valley, are you expecting anything out of them this year?
Jack, I missed the first part of what you said, but I did catch the tail end of it. They are on a 24-game losing streak. They do have a new coach. They are excited about where things are headed. I did actually get to see them earlier in preseason stuff, and they look a little bit better than what I think they have in the past. And one thing I've always said is Spring Valley has a ton of athletes, and it's very surprising to see them on a 24-game losing streak in football. So I think it's going to be, Richland Northeast is rebuilding. They lost Will Wilson. He's at North Carolina State now. A Power 4 school. We had quarterbacks in the state go to Power 4 schools last year, which is really unusual for our state, I think. But Will Wilson has graduated. He's gone to NC State. They had a couple of transfers. Blake Bennett, their really good wide receiver, he's transferred to AC Flora. So they're sort of rebuilding at Richland Northeast. I know our good buddy Lou Bajak, he's going to that game tonight. Just in case Spring Valley does break that losing streak, he'll be there on hand. So that's going to be a good one to watch. It's a rival teams right down the road from each other. These kids know each other. It's going to be a lot of fun in that one tonight.
Say, look at another matchup here between Gray and James Island.
So that's one last year that Gray won on the field, 17-14, and ended up having the forfeit at the end with the ineligible player that kept them out of the playoffs last year. So I expect that same type of game tonight, actually. That's two really good defenses. Michael Boulware, one of the top-rated seniors in this state. He's uncommitted, not even sure what offers he has right now, which has a lot of people scratching their heads with him. He's 6'2", 6'3", 220, 230 pounds. He's got the Boulware last name, who's, long history. Speaking of Spring Valley, his dad and uncles played over there, made it to the NFL. So he's really talented. So he's going to lead that defense for Gray Collegiate. James Island, in the last 2 or 3 years, probably have had one of the better defenses in the state across the board. And I think that the same thing's going to be this year. Experience will probably play a big factor in that one. That's one I'm going over to Lugoff Elgin and Lower Richland. That's one I'm definitely be keeping my eye on as the scores come in across the state tonight.
Really good Somerville team last year, 13-1, just falling short of a state title to Dutch Fork. They're playing Stratford this year. Stratford making the return trip to Somerville after Somerville won 28-14 at Stratford last year. What do you got for us in this matchup?
I think Somerville is reloaded. And I'm not saying this as a joke or anything like this, but they hit the transfer portal really hard. They have about, from what I understand, they have about 8 or 9 new starters that transferred from other programs from last year. They got a couple kids from Goose Creek, I know. They're really talented. I think they have maybe the best wide receiver in the state in Jaden Kelly Murray. I think he's that talented. He does a lot of things for that team. But Stratford didn't miss out on the transfer portal. They got the running back from Goose Creek, McGowan, right before actually preseason practice started. And they got a quarterback coming back, Jason Davis. He's a baseball player. But he's really good quarterback. I think this Stratford team is going to be better than a lot of people have expected. They got with that late transfer running back, they have a very experienced offensive line. But that's going to be a tall task going against Somerville. Green Wave are always going to be good. They got a lot of talent down there, and they're figuring out the quarterback spot. I think you could start with the guy that had to come in the state championship game last year against Dutch Fork and take over, but I think they're still trying to figure out the quarterback spot out with a lot of talented guys around him.
Again, a couple more minutes talking high school football with our guy Chris Deering here on the AAA Heating and Air phone lines. We ran through a couple games there, a couple notable teams. You're talking about like Somerville coming up short of the state championship a year ago. Is there any team in the Midlands or across the state that people need to keep their eye on that may be kind of on the rise that could surprise some people this year?
It's hard to say on the rise because they were ranked in the preseason top 10 by the media poll. But this AC Florida team, they actually played last night. They beat Westwood 30-19. They have 17 starters back from last year, and the few starters they don't have back, I think, transferred out. They didn't have a very big senior class last year for that program, but I think that's a team to keep your eye on. I think they have one of the better quarterbacks in the state. And Roper Winsky, I think they have a really great wide receiver. And Kendall Bird, Joshua Bennett transferred over from R&E. Joshua Davis, he's a really talented receiver too. He missed last year with an injury. He's back. So I think that AC Florida team, they're in the region with South Point, and that's always going to be a challenge. I think South Point was preseason number 1 in 4A. So that's going to be a one to watch. But I like that AC Florida team with all the returning experience they have. So that's one that I'm going to watch. And then Great Collegiate, I think they fly under the radar a little bit. They didn't play in the postseason last year. So a lot of people sort of forgot about them. But I think that's the team, especially if they can go out there and beat a really good, talented James Island team tonight. That'll put a lot of people on notice, I think.
Well, Chris, we're excited to see what unfolds on Friday nights, and we look forward to talking to you each and every week.
That sounds good. You guys have a great weekend, and we get it really kicked off next week with the college game going, and looking forward to all that as well.
Can't wait. Thanks,
Hey,
Chris. And Chris Deering covering high school football for us, and we'll talk to him each and every Friday as the season goes along. But as you mentioned, we got some week 0 action coming up this week in college football as well. We'll dive into some of that coming up next as the halftime show rolls along. Tyler Head and Jack Veltri live from Charwood Golf Club on the game. Tyler Ed here, telling you about our friends over at Old Timey Meat Market. Football season is literally just days away, and you want to make sure you have everything you need to make sure your grilling experience is as phenomenal as possible. Whether you're doing it at home or doing it at tailgate with your friends and family, you need to head over to Old Timey Meat Market, where you'll find their shelves stocked with various cuts and grades of beef, pork, poultry, seafood, and exotic meats. The selections are always fresh, never frozen, competitively priced, and of the highest quality. Get all you need for your tailgating this football season at Old Timey Meat Market. You can visit them in St. Andrews, South Congaree, or hey, head over to my neck of the woods in Lexington. Old Timey Meat Market, quality selection, a cut above the rest. Dang it, Dave. I forgot. We got to do more of these check-ins. Can you scroll up to that? Ed and Jack Beltry along with you here on your Friday at the Game Summer Golf Classic, sponsored by Craig Showrooms, formerly known as the Nest over in the Vista. We'll get back out to Terry Ford on the course in just a second here. It looks like the weather's actually turned out to be pretty decent. I thought it was supposed to rain all day when I looked at the weather yesterday.
It hasn't been perfect. It's very overcast out. Pretty crappy out. But last night, did you hear how much rain there was going on last night?
I heard a little bit of it. I must have passed out and slept through it for the most part. Was it overnight?
I woke up at like 4 in the morning to get water or whatever, and I just heard it outside. I'm like,
yeah,
dang, it is downpouring. So I'm surprised. Like you mentioned yesterday,
sure,
it might be a little bit bad out here, but now it's held up today, and honestly, I'm sure the course has been pretty wet out there, but overall, I mean, really can't ask for much better. I mean, I wish we got some sunshine, but this is pretty good.
Well, let's go check out what's going on the course once again. I believe Terry's standing by with Chris as they discuss what's going out there on the course. You ever chip money into a toilet seat before?
So I don't know if you knew this. This is a cool story.
All right.
Rory McIlroy, when he was younger, I think he went on like one of those like those talk shows or whatever. And his thing was that he would chip golf balls into a washing machine.
Oh, really? I did not know this.
So yeah, I think it was when he won the Masters. I think he went on all those different talk shows.
Yeah.
I think it was maybe like Fallon or Kimmel or something. He did it again, and it was
wow.
That's pretty. So I've seen
that's impressive.
But with a marshmallow into it, how far is the toilet seat away?
I looked at it. Yeah, I don't know. It was maybe about 10, 20-ish feet, but still.
Is this on the game Twitter?
It's on the game Twitter if you want to see the video of it. But yeah, that was impressive.
Yeah.
I'll give him props for that. So that's what's going on today at the Game Summer Golf Classic here at Charlotte Golf Club. But tomorrow, though, week 0, we actually get football that counts. Look, not every game is must-watch television necessarily, but I think Kansas State and Iowa State, this is the first time in 25 years we've had a week 0 game between ranked opponents, one at 17 and one at 22. And as we talked about earlier, this is kind of the early opportunity to be a front runner in the Big 12 and what's going to be a wide open conference that, quite frankly, anybody could win again.
Yeah, it's going to be a big one. I mean, this one counts towards the Big 12 standings, which is, most teams typically don't play early season conference games in week 1, but you have a rare case here where Iowa State and K-State are going to Dublin, and they're already there now. What do they call it?
It's Farmageddon.
Farmageddon.
Because, I mean, those are two pretty agriculture-rich states in Iowa and Kansas.
No, you're definitely right about that. But, yeah, so, look, early season, top 25 matchup. Look, a win really helps. Beginning of the year, boost your confidence. A loss, you're a game back in the Big 12 standings. So, again, this is going to probably be like the wild, wild west with how open everything is in the Big 12, but getting off to a good start is massive.
I would prefer if this game was being played at either Ames or Manhattan, though. Like, Ireland is interesting. And, like, when Notre Dame played Navy there 2 years ago, made perfect sense. Notre Dame, the Irish, get it. Last year, Florida State and Georgia Tech, okay.
Maybe if you had some, I don't think there's any cool uniforms for this game or anything.
I don't think so. I think it's pretty straightforward. Yeah. But yeah, 2 Midwestern teams playing in. It's like when Stanford played somebody in Australia in week 0 several years ago, and I didn't understand the correlation on that one.
Not again. it's one of those things I think where college football wants to really kind of go global, I guess, a little bit. We see this with the NFL. We see this with Major League Baseball going to like Japan and stuff. They've been to Australia too. But yeah, it's something where they've done this for a few years now, and I think it's something that's pretty cool, honestly.
Yeah, so we'll see that tomorrow at high noon, and again, winner of that going to get the opportunity to lead the Big 12 standings early, and Kansas State is a 3-point favorite right now. I picked them for my staff picks this week.
I picked them too.
This is the most confident I've felt in my staff picks in a while.
We will have staff picks coming out on GamecockCentral.com, 3:15 p.m. Everybody got their picks into me.
Fine. Well,
speaking of Terry.
Yes.
So,
I knew he was going to be late.
Our defending champion, Mr. Ford, he got his picks in last to me. And it's not that he got them in last. I texted him to get them in like 2 hours ago. He only sends me the first 5 games. And then he's like, my damn email didn't work. So he's
Terry's
he sent out the rest of the picks.
Terry's a little technologically challenged. If you haven't figured that out yet,
I love working for Terry and stuff, but my God, the guy every single week, it's him and Yuva. I always have to remind. Yuva texted me yesterday at 11:30 in the morning. Like, yeah, I'll get my picks in, and then he texted me this morning, 24 hours later. All right, I just sent them.
Well, the thing is, like normally during the regular football season, you have to give like a 2-3 sentence write up of the Carolina game. Like, hey, how do you see this game going? The matchup, and okay, I can understand how that might take you a little bit to kind of think that up and write it. But literally for yours, like for this week, it's week 0, we're just making picks. I literally copied it and deleted the team I didn't want to pick and sent it right back to you.
It's that simple, but not everyone is. Everyone just puts stuff off now, but that's coming out at 3:15 today. GamecockCentral.com. Check it out.
I'm hoping I'll put up a better fight in the standings this year than I did last year.
Yeah, it was. I finished 2 games behind Terry because I had to pick Notre Dame.
Yeah.
In a do or die scenario, but looking forward to. Someone's got to throw Terry this year.
So I really hope so. For the lack of effort that he puts into his picks, it's a shame that he ends up winning the whole thing.
I'm still convinced he's a cheater.
He might be. I don't know. I don't know. It's kind of like when people let their kids pick those kind of things.
Oh yeah.
It's like, do we count that? Yeah, I don't know if we should.
Yeah.
We'll try and certainly dethrone Terry. Got Stanford and Hawaii tomorrow night.
Looking forward to it, man.
Look, this is not gonna be the prettiest football game because those are 2 not great programs.
It's at least on an actual national channel.
Yes, you can actually watch that. Not
CBS
have to.
Game of the week.
I think it's Fox. It's CBS. It is CBS.
I do want. I highly doubt Brad Nessler and Danielson are going to be out there, but
I kind of hope they are now.
I hope they are, but I think it's probably going to be. It'll probably be that secondary crew.
The C crew.
Yeah, the one that they always have out there whenever they do the doubleheader.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. That's how the mighty have fallen from the days of the SEC on the CBS to now Hawaii and Stanford. But hey, football's football at the end of the day.
Yeah, no, but looking forward to it, and then we'll get Thursday. We'll be here before you know it next week, and
we're off and rolling.
We're off and rolling. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. We'll have a lot to talk about. So.
Cannot wait. We'll come back. We'll wrap up the hour check-in once again with Terry out on the golf course and talk about nicknames because the Red Sox have called up a name that I can't pronounce. I'll discuss that coming up next as the halftime show rolls along. Tyler Head and Jack Beltry on your Friday on the Game. Welcome back in. It is the halftime show at the Game Summer Golf Classic, sponsored by Krager Showrooms, formerly known as the Nest in the Vista. Tyler Head and Jack Belcher wrapping up hour number 2 here on your Friday on the Game. And as I've been doing throughout the show, it's time to go check in with Terry Ford once again out there on the golf course talking to some of our participants in the Summer Golf Classic. Good stuff out there on the course. Again, it's been a great day out here so far. I wanted to hit this as a wrap up hour number 2. You sent this to me yesterday. The Red Sox have called up an outfield prospect to the main roster. I believe you pronounce his name Yolstenson Garcia, but I had to look that up because I sure was fooled by the way you spell his name.
It's spelled JHOSTYNXON, Garcia. He'll be starting tonight, potentially, against the Yankees in a second game of a 4-game series out in the Bronx. And his nickname, the password. I mean, you could you just by the spelling of his name.
Sure.
Mr. Garcia here. He's got the quite the complex name. Not that there's anything wrong with that.
It's really the J and the H and the N and the X being next to each other that's so odd.
Like what's the silent part of it?
Yo. Hold on, I got to look at the way it's pronounced. Yo Tenson. So if it's Yo Tenson, I guess the S at the beginning of the word,
like J host. Why?
It's J host. Why? It's J host in Yaxon is the way that it looks like it's spelled.
So yeah, it's quite the name. So.
But the nickname password is perfect.
Oh,
I don't know where it originated from, but I look at that.
You just look at his name and it's like, looks like a password.
If you put like a 1, 2, and then like an exclamation point behind it, that is a password.
It's like the generic passwords that are suggested for you.
Yes.
But then it's like, now you can come up with your own.
Do you ever accept those, or do you come up with your own?
I always come up with my own.
Yeah.
I mean, how can you remember it? You know, that's like,
well, I guess the idea is that like your device remembers it because then it'll ask,
option, but...
do you want us to remember this password? Then you just have to do like the Touch ID or whatever, and you don't have to sit there and memorize the whole thing. Yeah, I don't know. I'm always like, because there are some sites and some things that I use that never remember my password, and I always have to put it in anyway. So I don't want to get in a situation where, my password is WX-35972 exclamation point Y 4211, and then I don't remember that.
Now I will ask. This made me think.
Okay.
What are some of the best nicknames in sports?
I always like the Sheriff for Peyton Manning.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I don't know if he embraced that one as much.
I feel like he really didn't. I don't know. I always think of I always loved the Big Hurt for Frank Thomas.
That's a good one.
who was with
He's
the
he's
White
very
Sox.
big.
Oh yeah, the Big Hurt. Like he can mash some home runs.
Johnny Football was great.
Johnny Football, yeah. Money Manziel.
Yes. Well, and it started this trend of the name Johnny, and then like you replace the last name with whatever the
Yeah.
thing is that you're doing, and it just worked. Like I think Johnny Football, that name went back to when he was at was it Tivy in Texas in high
Yeah.
school. So it's not something that just came up at A&M, but like it was perfect. I loved it.
Oh yeah. You know what's another good one?
What's that?
Refrigerator Perry.
Yeah, the fridge.
Yeah, the fridge. Dude, that's such a sick nickname.
By the way, he would probably be too small to play in today's NFL.
Oh, that's the craziest part is that he's so big for his size back then, but yeah, now.
And they'd put him in at running back.
Yeah, I always love the Clyde the Glide Drexler.
That's a good one.
That is a good one. What are some of the other videos?
Oh, man. I'm trying to think. Do you got a list there in front of you?
Yeah.
What do they have as number one?
Number one is where is it at here? Let's see. The Big Unit, Randy Johnson.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that checks out.
That's a good one. That's a
Yeah.
good one. Did you ever have a cool nickname back in high school?
Not cool ones. When you have a last name like mine, you're subject to a lot of mean nicknames
Yeah.
that people say. So I'd rather not describe those on air.
Yeah. I had a funny nickname back in high school. I had a buddy. His nickname was Iceberg.
Okay.
And we played football together. He was a year older than me. I wore his jersey number the year after he left, 70.
Okay.
And so people started calling me Mini Iceberg.
Okay.
So
Now, why was he called Iceberg?
his last name was Bergvis.
Oh, okay. All right. That's cool.
So yeah.
See, when you can play with the last name, that makes it even better.
Oh yeah, totally. So that's the beauty of it.
Yeah. Well, there you go. The password has been called up
The
by the Boston
password.
Red Sox, and if he is successful, I'm sure a lot of Red Sox fans will have new passwords to use.
Oh yes, absolutely.
at that point. 2 hours in the book, one more hour to go. Ari Wasserman put out his bold predictions for college football in 2025. We'll discuss some of those coming up next as we hit hour number 3 of the halftime show here at the game. Tyred here for our friends over at Pro Swing Columbia. We are quite literally sitting at a golf course right now, and I've seen some people swinging some clubs that don't look too great at doing it. And if you're having trouble with your swing, get yourself down to Pro Swing Columbia. They'll give you a free 30-minute swing evaluation where you can get a blueprint of your swing with a couple pointers and drills to work on. They'll also use the OnForm coaching app during all swing evaluations and lessons and get a before and after video of your swing, as well as some drills to work on at particular aspects of your swing so they can make you a much better golfer. And included with all that, you can also go down there and try their golf zone simulators. You can quite literally play on courses all over the world. Rainy day or a too hot day, get down to Pro Swing Columbia and you can play golf in a wonderful temperature controlled environment on those really cool golf zone simulators. If you want to find out more, call 803-592-3916 or go online to book at proswingcolumbia.com. All right, welcome back in. Halftime show. Tyler Ed, Jack Beltry hanging out with you at the Game Summer Golf Classic, sponsored by Krager Showrooms, formerly known as The Nest over in the Vistas. We head into the final hour here. Talked about a lot today. We were blessed with a lot of great news and news in general.
Yes.
Coming here on this Friday. There's some days where I'm sitting at home like, dang, what are we going to talk about? How are we going to, re-rack the same things that we talked about? But yesterday was a little bit of a different day, and we've had news pouring in throughout the day as well. In regards to the Nike contract and all that kind of stuff, as everybody is excited for the new apparel provider, and many people are excited for the big everything must go sale that they're inevitably going to have next summer. You saw Auburn's a couple weeks ago where they had to get rid of all the Under Armour stuff. That you can probably buy the Under Armour Carolina stuff next summer for pennies on the dollar.
It's going to be crazy. Like, start saving up your money. If you're listening, you love Carolina, save up your money, because that day will inevitably come where jerseys are. How much do you think a jersey would cost? Like,
oh gosh,
40,
maybe even less than that, maybe 30.
Yeah,
because again, they can't keep it. It's not like they can sell these things in the store.
Everything must go.
Everything must go when you switch apparel providers. Tennessee's gonna have the same thing next summer with their Nike apparel.
It's gonna be crazy.
I will say, like, would you feel weird now wearing an Under Armour Gamecock thing, knowing that they're now the old apparel provider next year?
I saw somebody, I think it was either on like our message boards or on Twitter, talking about how they have all this Under Armour stuff, and now they're going to have to sell it. Like, I understand that sentiment, but also, Elijah brought up a good point. He was wearing his Carolina Under Armour hat today, the script one. He's like, this thing's vintage now.
Yeah.
So kind of is in that way.
Yeah, and I guess, especially if like you close out this year really strong, you go to the college football playoff, women's basketball wins another national championship, you can have those like last of the Under Armour era type T-shirts and stuff like that to commemorate those kind of things.
Now, if you were, let's say I give you $100, you're going to the end of the Under Armour sale.
Sure.
Let's say it's at like the football facility.
Yeah. Pick
any items you want, $100, go.
I'm definitely gonna buy a Lenore Sellers jersey if they're not already sold out already. I'd probably get like something women's basketball. Like, and I like dry fit shirts.
Yeah.
Like, if I could wear nothing but dry fit shirts, I would. Those are my favorite. So maybe like a dry fit women's basketball shirt. Gosh, how much do you think that would run me? Am I like at $50?
A Lenore Sellers jersey would probably put you over $100.
But again, this is like the everything must go sale.
That's what I'm trying to, because again, they also probably have cleats. They probably have every single item, backpacks, like everything you could think of. Nike, or not Nike, Under Armour, probably has. Like, we saw it all. Like, you saw the pictures of Auburn, right?
Yeah, I did. Like literally everything
scattered all over tables.
And I want to say, I think Auburn sells Cam Newton jerseys at their bookstore.
Yeah,
which they were Under Armour back then. They were Under Armour now. So I think they were selling Cam Newton jerseys really cheap.
Yeah,
or that closeout sale.
So I mean, look, there's going to be so much. Like, I'll be very interested to see what this looks like when it does happen next time, because it's not if. I think it's going to be totally
well, yeah, because it's going to come to the point that they just have to get rid of it all, because, and probably again at the beginning of the summer, because then they can restock, get all the Nike stuff in
like
for the 26 season.
Like, once baseball and softball are done in June, that'll be when this thing probably happens. So I'm looking forward to it. I will definitely be over there to see this whole thing through.
I definitely will. I only have a few like Gamecock related things anyway, but I'll pick up some more. I don't have any shame in wearing the old apparel provider.
I just want to see the craziness. Like, I feel like this would be like some Black Friday type
like
stuff,
supermarket sweep type thing.
Yeah. So or I do wonder, would people begrudgingly not go because they do not like because so many people.
That's a good point.
So many people complain about Under Armour, but then they're probably gonna be the first people to go out there and buy the stuff.
I feel like the jerseys would go fast.
Jerseys. I almost want to say cleats would go fast too.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
Cleats,
shoes in general.
I do wonder if any of this stuff is game worn though. Jerseys,
game worn stuff will probably be at auction.
Yeah. Like a Lenore's. Like,
yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I'm talking about like the bookstore is like, hey, we're marking everything down.
Oh,
we got to get rid of all this. Come get whatever you want type thing.
So it'll be really interesting to see.
So we'll see. But that's the news of the day, with the details coming out about Carolina's contract, 10 years, $70 million with Nike starting in 2026. Yesterday, we went through Andy Staples' list of 10 bold predictions for college football. And his partner over at On3, Ari Wasserman, they have a great podcast, by the way, if you haven't checked it out, put out his 10 more bold predictions for college football. And I feel like Ari's not afraid to poke the bear a little bit. So some of these are maybe a tad spicier than what Andy Staples had. And we'll start off with number 1. Arch Manning will be in New York for the Heisman ceremony. I don't know if that's all that spicy, to be honest with you.
I love you talk about his honesty. I love someone who's honest. That's definitely the way to go. So the first sentence of his second graph, he talks about the last name going to work in his favor.
Yep.
He straight up just says Heisman voters are lazy. So when they see a Manning name with fat stats on a very good team, and just vote for him, regardless of whether he's most deserving, I think he's right. I think we're going to end up seeing Arch in New York. He could have a decently good season. There would probably be better deserving players out there.
Sure.
But again, Heisman voters probably don't do all the same type of research to make sure they get the best guys in there. So there's inherent bias.
Yeah.
There's just not paying attention and knowing what's going on. They just look at the stats. So he's probably going to be there.
I think, we talked about Avery Johnson earlier, who's the quarterback for Kansas State that people consider to be a dark horse Heisman candidate. Avery Johnson has to go out there and throw for like 800 more yards, like 8 or 9 more touchdowns, 5 less interceptions to be thought of on the same level as an Arch Manning because of the school that he plays for, because his last name isn't quite as famous. And he's right. There are a lot of voters that are just going to ride the Manning train and be like, all right, his numbers look good enough, I'll vote for him.
And that's the problem, because I think it's one thing to get him to New York. And again, Ari's take here is that Arch will be in New York for the Heisman ceremony. Didn't say win it. The problem here is that it's not like getting to New York. Okay, whatever. There's 5 finalists, 6 finalists, whatever.
Yeah.
But my issue would be not that, but what if he wins the Heisman Trophy with a good season, not a great season? That's the thing. What if there's someone out there like Lenore Sellers? What if he has a great season and he finishes in second when he should be in first, and you have Arch?
I could realistically see, let's say South Carolina goes 10-2, and let's say they do make the college football playoff, but Texas wins the SEC. They're like the number 1 seed going into the playoff. They have like only 1 loss in the season or something like that. And Arch Manning's numbers are only slightly lower than Lenore Sellers. I think Arch would still probably win the Heisman Trophy.
Arch, if he is close to anybody, he's getting the edge.
Yeah. Again,
because of his last name.
There's an inherent built-in bias. And look, I like Arch Manning. I think he's going to be
a good kid.
He seems like a good kid. I feel like he's going to have a good career in college and the pros, but you also can't help that there is a bias that people are going to have towards him because of his family.
And I just hope he makes it easier to where it's like, hey, his play on the field is good enough to where, he deserves to win the Heisman Trophy. He deserves to be in New York based on his stats, not just based on his name.
If he goes out there and has a Joe Burrow 2019-esque type of season, we're like, okay, no problem here.
He'll be the number 1 pick in the NFL draft next year.
No problem here. That's fine. Here's your Heisman Trophy. Thank you. Number 2 on his list is the new college football playoff protocol won't have tangible change on the selection process. Again, we talked about it as being the catalyst for why the SEC has gone to 9 conference games, because the committee says, hey, we're going to take into account your record against your schedule, and we're going to give you more credit for wins against good teams and knock you more for losses against bad teams, which, again, they didn't seem to do last year. But at the same time, you brought this up earlier, what if all the scenarios were the same from a year ago? Would that have changed which teams got into the college football playoff? And we just don't know.
That's the thing. Again, we don't know. And again, I think in a 12-team playoff, you're leaving some 9-3 teams out. That's the reality of the situation here. Speaking of 9-3 teams, just going down a few spots.
Sure.
Perfect segue. Number 4 on this list, a 9-3 team makes the college football playoff, is something that Ari did say here.
And again, this almost kind of contradicts what he was saying, but I feel like based on what they told us the new metric is, I think that opens up the doorway for something like that to happen, because I think you look at Carolina, Alabama, and Ole Miss, and they have better resumes because of this metric, given who they beat. Again, Ole Miss and Alabama both beat Georgia. Alabama beat them when they were number 1, and Ole Miss beat them when they were like number 3 or something along those lines. So they have among some of the best wins in the entire country a year ago.
I just wonder, now that we're taking more account into playing a tougher schedule, the games that you win against big-time opponents really matters, which is how it always should have been. Again, I wonder this year. Let's say it is the same scenario. You know, he mentions in here, you know, a lot of these 3-loss teams, Alabama, Ole Miss, South Carolina, were blocked by an 11-1 Indiana team. Inherently, you look at it like, yeah, we're not going to leave an 11-win team out. But what if that 11-win team is a team that just played a really weak schedule, not many notable wins, and they got, you know, hammered in their one real test against like an Ohio State? If that happens again this year,
Yeah.
I wonder what's going to happen, because I do feel like if there is a 9-3 team like a South Carolina again,
Sure.
I feel like it'd be tough to leave that team out.
So, and I know the committee is not supposed to take prior years into account when making their rankings every single year, but we as humans are naturally going to think back to past examples that influence our decision making. So if you get a similar situation, and let's just say it's, I don't know, give me a middle of the road Big Ten team, Maryland. Okay, if Maryland goes 11-1 and they have the same type of schedule as Ohio, as Indiana, I don't have their schedule in front of me. Let's say they play the same exact schedule as Indiana a year ago, went 11-1 without any wins over, you know,
Yeah.
Ohio State, Penn State, or Oregon. Would they be looked at the same way, as opposed to, again, let's just throw out the scenario of an Alabama team that, let's say they beat a number 1 Georgia. Let's say they don't lose to Oklahoma or whatever, and they have better losses. Would that be viewed the same way? I don't know.
No, I don't know. Again, we've seen the precedent set 2 years ago when a 13-0 Florida State team wrongfully got left out of the playoff because their quarterback got hurt. So again, I think it's tough to compare it,
Sure.
but it's like you got to really look at who you're playing, who you're beating, and you can't just reward teams for playing a simple schedule, because if that were the case, then then everyone would be scheduling light. You know, we got to schedule hard for a reason.
I'll throw one more in here before we go to the break. We'll have some more of these on the other side, but he thinks Oklahoma will make the college football playoff. This seems like a trendy pick, right? Everybody's very high on Oklahoma this offseason.
Even he admitted that he's going out on a limb on this one, and that he feels a little froggy.
Froggy. Haven't seen that used too much.
No, look, I don't see it. I think
they're going to be better.
What's better, though? Like 8 wins?
Yeah, I mean, maybe somewhere around there.
Yeah, they're missing the playoff because of that. I mean, I think Oklahoma, they got a big test this year. Again, the schedule's not easy.
No.
Like, they got to go to Alabama this year. They got to go to – or LSU comes to them.
LSU comes to them.
Like, they got to go to South Carolina.
Yep.
Texas. Like,
it's not easy.
It's not easy. And, you know, Michigan coming in right away in week 2. I mean, look, for a team that needs to win 10 games to probably make the college football playoff, I don't see it happening. They're going to be better, I think.
Sure.
7-8 wins, but that's not going to be enough to get in.
We'll hit more of Ari Wasserman's 10 bold predictions for the 2025 college football season coming up as we continue on. It is the halftime show. Tyler Head, Jack Beltry, live at Charwood Golf Club in West Columbia here on the Game. Welcome back in. It is the halftime show. Tyler Head and Jack Peltry along with you here on your Friday at the Game Seminole Golf Classic, sponsored by Krager Showrooms, formerly known as the Nest in the Vista. We're talking bold predictions for the 2025 college football season per Ari Wasserman of On3. We get to our next one here. Number 6, Carnell Tate leads Ohio State in receiving, but Jeremiah Smith becomes number 1 overall pick in the 2027 NFL draft. Now, at first thought, you might think this is crazy because no way Jeremiah Smith is not the best receiver. But I think back to the Texas game last year in the playoff. They bracketed him. They took him away. Carnell Tate got 87 yards in that game. It's very realistic. It's not very realistic. It's going to happen that every team is going to do everything they can to take away Jeremiah Smith. And Carnell Tate, a very capable guy on the other side of the field, is going to benefit from that.
Yeah, there were a few times last year where he would really be limited. Like the Michigan game last year, again, aside from the Texas game, which is the most notable one, the Michigan game, 35 yards, 5 catches. Indiana, 3 catches, 34 yards. I mean, like, there were times last year, don't get me wrong, Jeremiah Smith was on another level. Like, he caught a touchdown in every single game before November last year.
Yep.
That is crazy impressive. But I really do think, like, teams are going to do what Texas did, try to take him away a little bit, and that might lead to a few games where, hey, he's not going for 100 yards, 150 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He's going to have a few games, I think, where he is covered a lot, double teamed potentially, and that's just the reality of the situation. The good thing about Ohio State is, though, there's talent everywhere. Carnell Tate is a guy that can really boost his own draft stock in a lot of ways with a really solid year this season.
And Carnell Tate, while he was 600 yards behind Jeremiah Smith, was only behind by about 25 receptions on the year. So, and you don't have Emeka Egbuka this year back either, who was another 1,000-yard receiver for them. So I expect Carnell Tate to pick up a lot of that slack, and he very well could be the leading receiver for Ohio State this upcoming season. Elsewhere here, we'll jump back over into the SEC. I skipped over this one. One of the big 3 won't win the SEC. So if you go back in the past, basically 15 years, so starting in 2011, the SEC has been won by either Alabama or Georgia every single year, with the exception of LSU in 2019.
It's pretty crazy to think about just how consistently dominant those Georgia and Alabama teams have been, and then Texas, playing for the SEC last year, winning it. And I do think if I had to put my money on one of these 3 teams winning it this year, I really do like this Alabama team. I think they're going to be really solid this year, but they have question marks. I think Texas probably would be the team to win the SEC from that 3, but I think he's right. It would not shock me if maybe Texas slips up in a game or 2. I think things are going to be pretty top-heavy to where you have a lot of 10-2, 11-1, maybe 9-3 teams. I don't think a 9-3 team's getting into the SEC championship, but you have a lot of 10-2, 11-1 teams to where maybe Texas misses it by a game.
Well, and he's not saying that none of these 3 teams will make it to Atlanta. He's just saying one of them won't win. So, I mean, I could see a scenario, and again, they've underachieved given the talent, where LSU finally puts it together this year.
It has to.
Garrett Nussmeier is the quarterback we think he is. That defense finally gets back on track. They figure out how to use Harold Perkins the right way, and they run roughshod over the SEC, and they could win. Like, that is not something I put as like outside the realm of possibility, that it could be LSU in Texas or LSU in Georgia or LSU in Alabama in Atlanta come the end of the year. So it's not the craziest thought. I lean towards those 3. Just again, history tells us, and I think Texas is probably maybe the best team in the SEC overall going into the year. But it wouldn't shock me if that wasn't the case.
No, definitely. I mean, LSU has probably top 5 talent in the country. Now it's just about going out there and doing it.
Oregon, number 7. Oregon plays in the Big Ten title game again. Of course, they ran the table in the regular season last year, beat Penn State in the conference championship game. And again, there was questions going into last year. Could Oregon handle the physicality of the Big Ten and that rough and tumble, Midwestern Conference on a week-in, week-out basis? Well, they did. Now, yes, their win over Ohio State was controversial, to say the least, but nevertheless, they won. And we obviously know what happened when they got a rematch in the Rose Bowl last year. But taking a look here at Oregon's schedule, and they will go to Penn State for the whiteout game at the end of September. But I do not see Ohio State. They do host Indiana early October. this looks like a pretty manageable schedule.
Any Michigan on the schedule?
No Michigan on the schedule.
Going to Iowa can always be tricky.
Iowa, that could be tricky. We'll see if Washington or Southern Cal is a little bit better this year, but I don't look at any other games besides Penn State as like, wow, that one really worries me for Oregon.
Yeah, I do wonder about going out to Rutgers. That's a whole cross-country trip, and you never know how those can be. But
Sure.
Look, I don't think this is probably one of his weaker predictions, just because I do think Oregon should be playing for the Big Ten title. Like it should be Oregon and Ohio State meeting in Indianapolis in December.
Here's one that people listening probably are not going to like. Clemson goes undefeated on the way to the ACC title, which that would include a win over South Carolina.
I think I'll put it this way. I do think Carolina probably beats Clemson this year. I do think that is the case, but I think Clemson's going to run through the ACC, go undefeated. I think they're beating LSU. I think Clemson probably goes about 11-1 this year.
If I remember correctly, I'll pull the schedule up here. I think they have a Friday night game against Louisville on the road.
So. And they go to Georgia Tech. So
they go to Georgia Tech. That's tricky.
They go to Chapel Bill. I mean,
and again, they got LSU in week number one. That's not easy.
Like there are some games where they could easily slip up.
Yeah. So again, Friday night against LSU, November 14th. Road trip to Georgia Tech in early September. Yeah, we'll see, but I tend to believe, just again, we've talked about it a lot this offseason. They're so talented in every position.
They are.
They have NFL caliber talent just about everywhere. Again, this is the development that Dabo Swinney's, clung on to. And look, we've laughed at him for not embracing the portal, but for this year at least, he's got one of the strongest rosters in college football. And, if they rolled into the Palmetto Bowl at 11-0, I would not be surprised.
It would not shock me at all. I mean, again, I think they're going to beat LSU next week out in Clemson, but we'll see. And it's definitely something that Gamecock fans they want to beat them at home. So
last one here, number 10, Texas wins the national championship. That's not very bold in my opinion.
It's bold in the sense of it's like Texas hasn't won a national championship since 2006.
Right.
They've been in the Final Four the last 2 years. They just have failed to reach the national. They haven't been to a title game since 2009. So it's been a while. I mean, they got the team, they got the talent.
Yep.
Let's see if Arch is the real deal. I mean, a lot. Look, going back to the first take, like if Arch is in New York for the Heisman ceremony,
right,
he's probably leading Texas to the playoff and potentially to a national championship. So, I'm looking forward to seeing what happens. But I don't know. I don't know about Texas winning the title. We'll see what happens.
It's kind of one of those things they've been inching their way closer.
Yeah.
You got it semifinals, lost to Washington. You got closer last year. You fumbled. Ohio State wins. It seems like they're ready for the next step. Now, again, you got to go through a lot of football and obviously survive the 12-team playoff to get there. But, I mean, I would not be the least bit shocked if they won the entire thing this year.
This should be the year that it happens. But.
Yeah, so we'll certainly see what happens there. But, again, we are only a little over a week away from everybody getting their season started proper coming up next week for week number 1. Jack, appreciate you hanging out and filling in once again. I know you've been hard at work on all the Nike stuff today, so try and relax some this weekend.
I'll try to do that, man. Week 0, looking forward to it.
Last weekend before we get busy pretty much every weekend from now until late spring next year with basketball and football or baseball and all that.
It never slows down.
It never does slow down. So we'll get you back in here coming up next week. But coming up next, I spoke with JP Hovey of the Bussin' with the Boys podcast this morning on the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour. I'll let you hear that conversation once again coming up next as the halftime show rolls along. Tyler Head along with you here on The Game. Tyler right here for mortgage guru Jacob Crowder with First Palmetto Bank. If you're looking for a mortgage guru, Jacob Crowder has you covered. He's helped so many of our 107.5 The Game listeners, and he can help you. And we at The Game personally recommend him. Owned and operated right here in the Midlands. Jacob has local decision makers, which means quick and precise processing and underwriting. If you're looking to make a move, give Jacob a call at 803-719-1005 or email him at jcrowder@firstpalmetto.com. Interest rates have stabilized as well as the local housing market, and now is as good a time to buy a house as any. Jacob and First Palmetto Bank have the products to help home buyers, and if you're considering building a home, they have no-nonsense construction loans that fit your needs. Jacob's MLS number is 198432, and First Palmetto Bank is a member of FDIC and an equal housing lender. Jacob Crowder, the mortgage guru at First Palmetto Bank. Welcome back in. It is the halftime show. Tyler Head along with you. A couple more minutes to go here, wrapping things up on your Friday. It's been a fun day out here at Charwood Golf Club in West Columbia. We want to thank everybody here at Charwood Golf Club, Rock Lucas and the entire staff for allowing us to be out here once again for our Summer Golf Classic, which has been sponsored by Krager Showrooms, formerly known as the Nest in the Vista. So great time out here today. Had some onion sausages, Firehouse subs, always delicious. And man, we had so much news to talk about today too, in terms of what happened with the Nike deal, South Carolina, all that being finalized earlier on today. I'm excited to see within however many months, however long it takes, to see what those uniforms do end up looking like for South Carolina for the 2026 season. And I don't know, maybe Nike will give them a little bit of a different flair compared to what we've had here in the past handful of years with Under Armour and all that kind of stuff. Obviously, excitement when it comes to the new 9-game schedule in the SEC and all the possibilities that opens the door for, where you're not going to have to wait too long to see all of the usual opponents to come in taking on South Carolina. And again, you're going to get the opportunity to see everybody over the course of that about 4-year window, either home or away. So you don't have to wait years and years and years to see the Texases or the Tennessees or the Georgias, whoever it may be, come back to Williams-Brice Stadium, which is obviously really, really exciting, and looking forward to that. And again, in a couple of months, we'll probably know who South Carolina's permanent fixed opponents are, as well as the schedule for next year and all that kind of stuff. It's going to be like a reveal show on the SEC network, like it always is in December when it comes to the schedule being out and all those kind of things. So same kind of deal this time around. But again, I am intrigued to see who South Carolina's locked-in opponents are going to be, and maybe you do get a return of the Georgia series. Maybe you do continue on playing South Carolina every single year, or get a Tennessee or something along those lines. That would certainly be pretty exciting if they were to get some of those kind of schools in there going forward. I did want to make one more note before we get out of here. I'll remind you that tonight on ESPN at 9:00, I believe, is the Not So Fast, My Friend documentary that they're going to be running for Lee Corso, who, of course, next week will have his final broadcast of College Game Day. Won't be in there tomorrow for the Ireland pregame show and all that kind of stuff. Wasn't there last year. And then when everything gets rolling, coming up next week, start things off for Ohio State and Texas, his final show. Obviously, everything that day is going to be dedicated to him. A lot of emotions, grab your tissues and all that kind of stuff, because they're going to try their best, I imagine, to make you cry for that show. But excited to see, the documentary and all that kind of stuff, and tell the story of Coach Corso's life and his career in college football. Because I don't know about you, I've never known a college football without Lee Corso as some kind of media presence, right, on game day or whatever it may be, because he's been doing it for so long. It's certainly going to be missed. And again, I think next week's show is going to hopefully be a lot of fun in terms of paying tribute to the legend and all that kind of stuff. And I imagine he'll probably have a Ohio State headgear pick next Saturday to kind of bookend his headgear selections, going all the way back to, was it 97 or 98, I think, when he did the first headgear thing. Or maybe it was earlier than that. I don't know, 95 or something along those lines. But, he's been doing it for so long. And obviously Ohio State was the first and has the chance for Ohio State to be the last as well. So looking forward to that coming up tonight. And then, man, week zero action tomorrow. Kansas State, Iowa State, Farmageddon over there in Ireland, and a opportunity to see who's going to take the early reins of the Big 12, a conference that, as we talk about so much, is so wide open. And I think you look at the odds on like BetMGM and stuff like that, and the margins are razor thin between a lot of those teams, because it's just so hard to figure that conference out. It was last year. Arizona State was picked to be dead last, and they ended up winning the entire thing. So kind of shows you how wide open that kind of thing can be. And I fully expect it to be another chaotic year out there next year, or excuse me, this upcoming year. They get started with Farmageddon and Iowa State coming up tomorrow. Appreciate it, man. As things get rolling coming up tomorrow out there in Ireland. And then you'll have other games later in the day, Kansas and Fresno State, Western Kentucky and Sam Houston State. You got UNLV and Idaho State. I don't think that game's on regular TV. It says Mountain West Network. I don't know about you. I don't have that channel. But if you do, you can watch UNLV take on Idaho State and see Dan Mullen in his debut for the UNLV Rebels, which is in and of itself should be an entertaining, sight to behold when it comes to what's going to happen out there with UNLV. And then you get Stanford and Hawaii, wrap things up with the nightcap out there on the west, not even the West Coast. They're out in the middle of the ocean. That game will be on CBS, and then we'll be off and rolling. So hopefully get some good games tomorrow, some fun things to talk about when we come in here on Monday. And then on Monday morning, it's game week. We'll be looking solidly ahead to Virginia Tech, talking about Brent Pry, Kyron Drones, all those guys coming up next week. And then we'll finally get the opportunity to see South Carolina kick off the season and hopefully replicate, if not improve on what they did a year ago, and try and match that magic from 2024. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Looking forward to all that and all the discussions with you guys, the listeners, as the season goes along, as Reaction Monday is a little over a week away. So going to be a lot of fun doing that. Again, appreciate everybody out here at Charwood Golf Course for allowing us to be out here for the Game Summer Golf Classic, presented by Craig Showrooms, formerly known as the Nest in the Vista, and look forward to doing this event coming up next year as well. So everybody enjoy week number 0, and we'll be back to break it all down come Monday. Coming up next, it is the post-game show with Jay and Terry here on The Game.